All right, good evening, and thank you guys once again for stopping by the podcast for Beautiful Wounds. Tonight I have a very special guest. She goes by the HR Queen. Her name is John A. Carter. Why don't you take a moment to tell everybody who you are and why it is so important to understand from the HR perspective on the workplace exodus?
Well, I am the HR queen. My background is in law. Let me give you a little bit about my background. Over 2 decades managing law firms, and in that comes HR, dealing with humans all day. But I think that's what makes me a little different because I treated my employees as humans, and that goes into why the Great Resignation is happening. In my opinion, so 47 million people quit their jobs last year.
That's a huge number.
That is a huge number. And I know the data is going to come out again for last month. And I know it's going to be crazy again because they're already warning us. During the pandemic, the mental health issues became, well, we all know that mental health issues started to rise.
Right.
And I think with balancing, a lot of parents are working. And so balancing COVID in itself, a pandemic that we were all new to, and having your children at home with you all day and balancing that and not getting the help that you needed from your employer, people were like, this isn't it. Myself, I resigned from corporate back in June of last year because I decided to put my children and myself first.
Absolutely.
I was able, amongst all the craziness, to find a great balance, and I wasn't willing to give that up. And it seems as if many of the employers that doesn't really set well with them.
Right.
They thought, okay, vaccine, everybody rush back in.
Right.
No, that's not how life works.
Right.
And so I think that was one of the main reasons for people leaving. Yeah. Enough is enough.
I can understand that sentiment. So with that being said, I think one of the perspectives that you take with this subject is from the employer and people department as opposed to the employee. And many people only have the side of the lens that, okay, I have to be home and I have to take care of my family and take care of my mental health. But as somebody who not only has to be home and take care of their family and their own mental health, and being in HR, having to be in charge of everyone else's benefits, PTO, inclusivity.
Compensation. Let's talk about that. Where raises is going to happen, all that good stuff.
It just goes on and on and on. And we know from every publication that's taken place from 2021, early 2021 to most recently, that we are expected to not see jobs return to the actual commercial real estate building for the foreseeable future. So
just talked about that on a post I did. And to me, I believe that is a smart move. People, I think that's another reason why a lot of the employers were rushing to get back in, because a lot of them had leases. Let's talk about me personally, my personal experience. The director of administration, right? I was the director of HR, but she was the director of administration. She signed a new lease, did construction during the pandemic, all kinds of stuff. And in my mind, as a millennial, with 2 kids, she didn't have any children, but with 2 kids, not that matters, but as a millennial with 2 children, and work-life balance is extremely important to me. In my mind, forget the space, right? We don't need 3 floors, maybe 1 if you have clients that need to come in and you need to impress them, but those times are gone.
Those are gone. And, I find it interesting that during this time of the pandemic, the later half, I have my own stories, but behind what I dealt with during the pandemic. But the later half of it, stepping out of the military, and my industrial organizational psychology degree now puts me in a place to work in the HR people department, and me seeing for the first time what it felt like to be in corporate America. When I was sheltered, I could say when I was sheltered by the 20 years of military experience and not really having to deal with those HR issues because we were so protected by equal opportunity and diversity, which because let's just face it, the US military is probably the most diverse organization in America. So being on the outside in the corporate world, when you work for 20 years at taking care of people, and then you find that we're still focused on the wrong things, even when there's a pandemic going on. And let me just throw another variable in for anybody who might watch this later on. You're in California, so the entire makeup of the economy, the work center, and the response to the pandemic in California is like completely different than 48
Idaho.
other states.
Or right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Completely, drastically different.
So what was that like for you then when you finally figured out, well, you know what? I'm at this moment, I'm not leaving California. This is home. I'm not going back into the work center. I've got to figure out a way to diversify my portfolio so I can keep so I can make the ends meet and keep going forward and be home to take care of my children. What was that initial action like for you? Was there any fear behind that? And could you talk about how you overcame that fear, if any?
I want to say it was fear, but I worked for a law firm with 21 offices. I mean, global. I knew the pandemic was coming before it hit here. And I say that because, well, we also managed our Beijing office at the time and our those offices. So we had already shut down that office way before we had to shut this office down.
That makes sense.
And because of that, I honestly had started to get into investing and trading in the stock market. So I was like, whoa, something's not right, So let me pick up another skill set that I can enhance while I'm still here, but just in case.
Okay.
So I'm always one that thinks about an exit plan, right? I am a very long-term thinker, and I always have plan B in the back of my mind, which is not everyone, but so there really wasn't a fear,
Okay, that makes sense. Well, so what can you say to those who may not have been as prepared as you were, who are now facing the reality that they're going to need to be home to take care of their children, not really knowing what direction it will go with the new variants, COVID, vaccination mandates, and the work-life balance just being because there's an old saying, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So, maybe you were on point with that, especially having that foresight into what was going on in the China office. Right. But for some people who may be watching that aren't prepared, how could you could you give them any steps going into leaving the work center, going home, trying to make ends meet, and then making sure that their families are taken care of? Could you provide any steps for that?
Yes. So I believe that everyone is capable of being a business owner. Does everybody want to be a business owner? No, right? But I believe that everybody is capable of being a business owner. And if you don't want to own your own business, then you buy businesses as far as in the stock market, right? That is what you honestly have to do. You have to be, while you still have that paycheck, find something to invest in.
Good point.
You have to. I know it's a harsh reality, and a lot of people haven't really got there, like you said, yet. They don't, but it's here. And you just have to be investing your money, especially while you still have a paycheck. You're really
that's a good point.
In a winning situation, because I know some people, I mean, there was also a lot of layoffs. It wasn't just about people quitting.
Right.
You know, companies weren't making the money that they were making, so they were laying people off. So it's really about knowing, being confident. I am a confidence pusher is what I like to say.
For sure.
Know that you can do it. You can do it. It might not happen like very quickly, but you have to prepare yourself. Maybe every day, go home, think of something that you like to do. Is there something passionate? Are you passionate about something? You can do it. I have, my following, right, on TikTok, at _ the HR queen is all my social media platforms.
For sure.
I want people to be confident in themselves to do whatever you want to do. And I think that is really what people are missing. It's the confidence. We get so complacent in jobs and going into that 9 to 5, it becomes a routine. You're just there to collect a paycheck, really 9 times out of 10. So honestly, this is the push that you need.
So basically what you're saying is that what we should really be considering now that we're spending more time at home is trying to take those checks and figure out exactly how much money we can take out of our pay and diversify a portfolio and create opportunities for ourselves.
Exactly.
For sure.
Stop spending. That's what I tell people. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but you have to stop spending.
Well, yeah, we brought you on the show for a reason. You know, being in HR, you deal with payroll. So it's a big deal, right? So if you tell people, you know, when you're at home and you're taking care of your family and you're not in the office anymore, then you should, in theory, not be spending as much as you were spending when you were traveling every day to work. Right. I mean, that's a concept we should be paying attention to, but I'm sure many of us are guilty that we've probably started spending more.
Retail therapy.
For sure.
It's retail therapy. Those Amazon boxes come very quickly. It's very convenient. So I tell people stop doing, hey, if you like to shop at Amazon, get paid for it. There is affiliate marketing. That's one of my sources of income. If I shop on Amazon, I am telling people, wow, I love this product. And if you want it, you click on the link.
Okay.
And I get a commission off of it.
So before this show gets published this evening, then I will make sure to have the links attached for anyone on financial literacy, for sure. Yes. Your website where they can go to, reach out to you for consulting and tips on managing their money effectively. Yes. Since they're being home with their families and spending less time in the office. So those are going to be all things that we make sure we put into the bottom of the description for the video. And this has been, so far, it's been amazing, all of the points that you're making, that if it wasn't for somebody who oversaw the role of human resources, that you probably wouldn't get this perspective just sitting back and wondering, okay, how do I make a living for myself, being home, away from the work center, less hours, I'm spending more, I should be having this time with my family and growing as a person, but a lot of us are kind of withering away instead of growing in this pandemic.
Unfortunately, but we're human.
Absolutely.
It's human nature. One other point before we leave that, you would be surprised that your children can be business owners. My daughter, my 14-year-old, we've always dabbled in, she's helped me with my businesses while employed. I've always had businesses, but she started her own business during this pandemic, and I'm helping her refine her business skills. So then when she graduates from high school, she will know how to start and run a successful business.
That's powerful.
Our kids are brilliant. Mm-hmm. They're brilliant. I mean, she can show me things on a computer that I didn't know how to do, or it would take me some time. You would be amazed at how some parents are sitting home with little CEOs and they don't even know.
That's a fact. And with that being said, you've talked about all of the good things that you have done in your life since the pandemic to maximize your potential for yourself and your daughter, you know, and new spaces and opportunities for growth. You still have a very trying situation that you have to deal with that can bring up, you know, reservations in your own mental health because of your. We just talked about this last night with my guest Omar about autism, parenting on the autism spectrum. So not only are you doing all of these things to ensure that your spirit is lifted and you go forward and you are bringing your eldest child forward and teaching her responsibility, fiscal responsibility, financial literacy, so on and so forth during the pandemic, but then you're parenting a child with autism.
Right.
Now,
Which is,
that's incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that because it is a lot. It is, children that are on the spectrum are brilliant as well, absolutely, right? They just learn differently. Yeah. But they take a lot, it takes a lot of time. And my son is not, he'll be 3 on the 27th of this month. So we're in the very early stages, yeah. But had I not been home with him to see this, because my daughter, when I had my daughter, you know, I was back to work within a couple weeks.
Right.
She was at work with me. How crazy is that? We're not even going to get into that, but she was
that's a whole nother episode.
Carrier with me, right? Yeah. So now I was able to be home with him. Mm-hmm. And luckily I was, because I caught, and I'm very aware, you know, interacting with him every day. And so, you know, something that is, I don't want to say bad, because being autistic is not bad at all.
Right,
but right. Some people might say it adds a little hardship, right, to your daily life. But had I not been here day in and day out with him to catch it earlier, I probably would be in a worse situation later on.
Well, now let me ask you this then. Did you notice more of the symptoms prior to COVID or when you came home?
When I came home,
okay,
which is very interesting, yeah. which honestly, because there might be other parents out there like me as well. So my son was in daycare. Mm-hmm. He was in daycare before the pandemic hit for about 6 months. He was babbling. He was he was hitting the milestones.
Right.
COVID hits and I bring him home and nothing. The speech is completely gone. Yeah. And at first I was like, okay, maybe it's just because he's a pandemic baby. You know, he's not around the kids anymore. So that took me a moment to kind of get over, right? I was like, oh no, it's just the pandemic. He'll be okay. Right. But being here now, 2 years? It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
I noticed that there was something wrong and then had him diagnosed. But yeah, at first I was like, no, it's okay. He's just not around people.
Right.
So that was a whole nother dynamic.
One of the things that we spoke about yesterday was the denial phase.
Yeah.
And what it takes as a human being when, especially in the Black and brown community, when you finally say to yourself or your family members, okay, I had to accept that it's not that anything is wrong with my child and that they are, you know, that they're the words that we associate with any of these disorders, right? They're none of that, but they are different in their own right. And now I must accept that and do what's best to bring them the best health and wellness that I can. Right. And it has to be an incredibly challenging thing when you have to compartmentalize human resources, what you're going to do with your investments, your daughter, California mandates, so on and so forth. And then you have your son who you are accepting at this point. That takes an incredible human being. And I just want to say thank you for being able to share that story here publicly, because a lot of people are going to benefit from hearing 2 nights in a row dear friends of mine saying how they came through the pandemic, parenting and being gentle, and, you know, being able to keep their own sanity together.
Which sometimes it's hard.
It's very hard.
For the people that are listening, this has not been a walk in the park.
Right.
By any means at all. So, but it's a blessing and a curse. I'm glad I'm here with him. I'm glad I have the opportunity to help him. And I mean, nobody loves him like me, right? So right. I'm glad that I'm here and not just taking him off, even though he is actually at a daycare during the day, so I can get some work done. And his daycare, it's only 2 other kids, but the woman, I mean, she's wonderful with him. He feels safe with her.
That's awesome.
And everybody doesn't have that luxury. And it took me a minute to do that. It took me a minute to say, you know what, I need that space. So if anybody else is out here listening to that and they're struggling with or battling taking that space or having that time to yourself, it is a necessity.
Oh my God, it's huge. It's huge. When dealing with any child with any personality or mental disability or disorder, boundaries doesn't equal neglect. And that's a huge thing to put out into the universe. Boundaries doesn't equal neglect. I had to learn that myself, parenting my son who has general anxiety disorder. It doesn't mean neglect, but we are hard on ourselves as parents because we want to provide the absolute most possible love and care that we can. And sometimes that's to our own mental health, in detriment to our own mental health.
You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
That's the truth. That's the truth.
So,
but one of the things that I will be talking about later is going to be the whole single parent dynamic and how single parents are able to pull through mental health, not having that support system. So in a few episodes, I'm going to be jumping on that. And
that's a whole nother dynamic.
Absolutely. And I'm going to remember to tie you into that conversation too. So
appreciate that.
So we got about 10 minutes left in our show right now, and it's flown very well. And this information has been incredible. If you could possibly bring home any topic on mental health and work-life balance during the pandemic and going into a new normal, quote unquote, if you could speak to that, I'd love to get your perspective on that.
I think first and foremost, mental health matters. Mental health matters. I say it all the time. You have to take care of your mental health, especially in times like this.
Right.
The isolation, all types of things. With all the changes, the normal, right, changes almost every day or every week.
Right. That's
so is there a normal? What is normal? How do you define normal? I think what you have to be comfortable in is defining your own normal. What makes you get through the day, and this is something that is going to change. This is something that you don't figure out overnight. This is not something that, I have several books that I read, right? And you get tips and things like that, but it's not your life. You're in your life day to day, and everybody's life is different, but know that we're all having the same struggles, but you're important and you matter, and your mental health matters. And no job, I'm going to say this as an HR professional, no job is worth you feeling empty inside.
That's powerful. Because we define ourselves by our occupations.
We do. And that's not right. We need to stop thinking that way, because, and another reason why we need to stop thinking that way, great point, is because our children, they don't listen to what we say. They look at what we do,
Right.
That's what they're looking at. And so if I'm always like down, or, I'm hating to get up to go to this job, or I'm hating to get on Zoom, things like that, then that means the passion is gone and something is wrong. And you need to look within yourself and what's going to make you happy. When I resigned from corporate America, and I've been working for a long time, it was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And I'm not telling people just go and quit, right? But it was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And it helped my mental health. There are days when I go crazy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we all have a little bit, for
but
sure.
It helped my mental. You got to put yourself first.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
That's a great point that you make there. And as a final point, one of the things that I worry about is the fact that for so long in the Black and brown community, mental health was not a priority. Then it became a buzzword in 2020. And you have individuals like Kanye West and some of the other celebrities, Antonio Brown, some of these other celebrities that have suffered they didn't even get a chance to suffer in silence like many of us do, but they've suffered in the public sight. And mental health has been such an issue in our community for so long because the resources were not there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things that I worry about is with the corporate exodus. There's already 1% of African Americans and in the corporate management and worker bee role, who for the first time probably in their whole family lineage had access to mental health care. Myself, I went through the military for 20 years, so I've been, and the demographics are greater in the military for Black and brown who have had access to mental health care. But in the corporate space, there's only 1% that occupy that corporate space. And if that 1% diminishes by even a tenth because of the exodus, then I wonder what the demographic looks like for the future of diversity. And that mental health has already been such an issue. Will we lose access to mental health care because of the flee from work?
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point. Because that's one thing I can say that I do miss about corporate. I had wonderful resources.
Right.
I mean, free therapy, and people that are still employed, if you have resources, use them.
Use the resources.
Use them.
And
go to your HR department. A lot of people don't even know the resources that they have available to them, because a lot of these corporations, the HR aren't really doing a great job of pushing it out and letting you know that this stuff is here. Use them.
Gotta use it. You got to use it. I purposed through creating and founding Beautiful Wounds as a nonprofit organization to be able to provide psychoeducation for all communities, but especially the Black and brown communities, who I hope just seeing these videos, and I hope just participating in a webinar will do something to enhance the mental health of possibly a lifelong situation that, their traumatic experience has not been healed from. So just being able to talk to you about these things and know how powerful your words are and how you work through them and how you continue to move through being a parent, taking care of your children, taking care of these spaces, and encouraging and empowering other millennials, as you call them, to take care of their mental health and be financially literal as an HR professional is incredible. And I hope that this video gets out to the masses, because many people need to hear it and see it.
Me too. It's all about giving humans resources. That's what I'm here for. I think
plug.
This is a great topic. I'm glad you had me on. I'm looking forward to doing more. Sure. Again, I know you're going to put all of our contact information in the links and all that good stuff. I do not bite. I am here to help. Anybody, feel free to contact me and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
For sure. And I believe that. And I thank you for spending some time with us tonight. And I will make sure that all of the appropriate links and contact information is updated below. And thank you again and have a good evening.
You too.
All right now.